This is the Wealthy Wednesday Show with your host, Luci McMonagle, a money manifestor, coach, and public speaker who's on a mission to helping you create more wealth in your life and business. This show will inspire and empower you with various topics and has expert guests. Let's welcome your host, Luci McMonagle.
Welcome to the Wealthy Wednesday Show. This is your host, Luci McMonagle, and today I am so incredibly honored and excited that I have a New York Times best-selling author, Pam Grout, and she is a hopeless romantic who believes the world is a beautiful place and that people are noble and that anything is possible. She believes that for a living, that she writes books, she travels, she writes for magazines, and she also has 16 books and counting. Well, I added the and counting, but that's okay. I'm excited to have her on here, and she has her website, which is pamgrout.com, and she also has her travel site, which is georgeclooney.com. So please be sure to check out both of her websites, and let's give a warm welcome to Pam. Welcome to the Wealthy Wednesday Show, Pam.
Well, thank you, Luci. It's great to talk to another Michigander. Well, I guess I'm not an official Michigander, but my mother is. So anyway, great to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have this phenomenal new book called Think and Grow Rich. Could you tell us a little bit about this book? And also I'd like to dive a little bit into the miracles and magic that you've been creating in your life.
Okay. Well, yeah, Think and Grow Rich. I think the subtitle kind of explains everything. It's a 30-day experiment in shameless gratitude and unabashed joy. And I talk a lot about, when you're on this frequency, I call it a frequency of gratitude, then you start noticing the miracles and all the beautiful things that the universe has to offer. If you're on a frequency of grumpiness and life sucks and, all that kind of thing, you miss so much beauty and so many wonderful things that are happening. So it's really a little experiment that I have people do. For 30 days, I have them try this really simple, easy thing to do, and just to see what different things happen in their life. In fact, I just posted a blog post just right before we got on. So people are always sending me their stories, and so someone had just sent me some stories about what had happened to them when they were trying this experiment of, the simple steps where you look for gratitude, you look for blessings, and you count your blessings, basically. So that's what the book is about. It's got a bunch of what I call party games. Mm-hmm. And because I figure exercise, that's a little bit too much, it's like, let's just do party games. So it's just a way of trying and looking at the world in a different way, because we animate into our life experience whatever we put our attention upon. So if we put our attention upon the beauty and the joy, then we will start seeing that in our life.
Exactly. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've kind of been delving into this for about 20 years, so I just have a little bit, but the way you explain things and having a party and look for signs and look for information, I wish I would have found you 20 years ago, because it would have been so much easier than me trying to sort through all of this stuff, trying to figure out what does this mean, and it used to be so philosophical, and yours is really, you're having fun with it, you're flowing with it, you're thankful, you have gratitude, and you're able to really show up in life in a way that allows you to inspire other individuals, myself included.
Oh, well, thank you.
So thank you. So you're talking about looking for signs and doing little party assignments, and you have Think and Grow Rich. And some of the things that you do is you create manifesting magic and miracles. And a part of that is that there's this invisible energy, this invisible force that's out there. Could you tell us a little bit about what this invisible force is, and is it friendly, and should we be weary of it?
Oh my gosh, it's so friendly. That's the thing. I call it the field of infinite potentiality. And so I'm borrowing a little bit of a physics term, but there is this, it's been called God in the past. It's been called, but God has a lot of baggage, that word. So I prefer think of it, because the thing is, you ask, is it a benevolent force? It is only a benevolent force. It only wants to bless us. And it's while it might be invisible, it's very real once you start looking for it, and once you start noticing it, and once you quit being afraid of it. Because I think a lot of us were taught that this God was, up in this little, I don't know, whatever, looking down at us and pointing fingers and waiting to catch us doing something naughty. So you really realize how much this force loves us, how much this force wants to interact with us, how much it wants to bless us. Your entire life changes, because again, our life forms around our beliefs and expectations. So once you get over believing that, you've got to be this perfect way and you've got to do all this, but that you are loved unconditionally always, no matter what. And that's just a complete life changer. I mean, it like flips your whole life upside down once you really get it, how benevolent this force is and how much it loves you. It just changes everything.
Wow. So you can really, truly change your entire life once you get over the belief systems that there's this energy, this God, this force that's way up there somewhere, who's just waiting to just pounce on you. And if you think of anything bad or do anything bad, he's going to shoot lightning bolts down on you.
Exactly.
But that's really only a perception. And if you look for that, I'm assuming you'll find evidence for that. But if you look for evidence of friendliness and love and compassion, you'll find that.
Exactly. We animate into our life whatever we put our attention upon. So if you're putting your attention on all the misery and the problems, the gloom and doom, there's plenty to be found. If you put it on, what's possible. I really love to talk about possibilities. And
Yes.
I think the thing is, there are infinite possibilities, but because we are looking for this little finite paradigm of what we believe the world is about, that is all we see. When there's literally infinite possibilities. So as you open up to more of that, in physics, they call it the observer effect. So it's like when you're affecting what you're observing, what you're looking at. And so you collapse the wave. So once you've decided, well, this is the way the world is, you collapse the wave, and that's all you can see. So once you get into this realm of all the possibilities and all those, waves and possibilities and quarks and all that stuff that becomes available to you, and you can form it into a different way. I mean, we're already connected to everything, but we only are able to see what we're looking for. So opening up to all the possibilities is just like then the actual truth of the world can get through. But as long as you keep, perceiving it a certain way, a perception, that's all you're going to see, because you collapse the wave. That's the way it is. And so you miss out on so much. And that's why it's really cool to give up all that fear about this force, give up all those old baggage, all those stories that we were taught as kids. So many paradigms are working in our lives that are really not true, and they don't serve us at all. And it's time to really give birth to a new story. And that's kind of what I feel like my mission is giving birth to this new story that, we do live in a benevolent universe, and that it does want to interact with us, and it does want good for us. So I feel like I'm kind of in service to that story by sharing, stories that people send to me, by, sharing some miracles of things that happened in my own life. So yeah, that's to me what it's all about. So that's my mission anyway.
Wow. And let's say somebody just found the Wealthy Wednesday show. They've never been introduced to these concepts. They don't know who you are. They don't know who I am. What's the very first step that they would need to take to open up to the possibilities? Is there some magic thing that they need to do, or how does that work?
Well, the book that sort of catapulted me into the spotlight was E Squared. I don't know if you've read that one, but I have an experiment in it that's really easy to try, and I would suggest people do that. I call it the Do to Bides experiment, because I've got 9 do-it-yourself energy experiments is what I call them. And so what I encourage people to do, I called it the Do to Bides because it's a thing from the Big Lebowski, but basically the premise, I set them up all like science experiments with lab report sheets, but the premise, the hypotheses that we're going on is that there is a benevolent force that has my back. That is the hypothesis. Now, it could be true, it could not be true, but we're going to give it a try. We're going to give it 48 hours and to make its presence known. And that's what I encourage people to do. And some people say, well, you're giving a deadline to God or, whatever you want, the universe, whatever you want to call it. But it's not that. It's really jarring us into paying attention, again, to all this beauty and all these miracles that are out there. So I really just say for 48 hours, okay, write down the date, the time it is right now. And just say, okay, dude, if you're giving me a sign, a simple sign, and make it clear, make it so I will recognize it. And so that's all. I mean, it's so simple. And you don't have to really do anything different. Just be more observant, kind of notice, wow. And I mean, the stories that I get from people of these incredible signs are just so much fun. I always, I feel so lucky because I get all these emails that come to me, and they usually start with something like, you are never going to believe this. So I get tons and tons of emails like that. So it's been really fun for me. I have like my own little self-help channel right in my inbox every morning.
Wow. Wow. That is so cool. And that's one of the very first things that I started with is I had to prove or disprove these manifestation things. And for me, when I first heard a lot of it, I was really angry because it was like, no, I can't possibly be creating all of this misery in my life. And then when I wanted to disprove the source, and I could not disprove it. And the more that I started focusing on the benevolence, the joy, the happiness, the wealth, the money, the more that manifested in my life. And you took this to a whole new level. You have E squared, you have E cubed, and you have all of these books that are really helping individuals start with just the basics. Prove or disprove it. I dare
Right.
you.
Yeah, you can talk about theory till the cows come home, but you really want to put it to practice in your life. And that's kind of what I did, is by challenging people to try these science experiments. I didn't say, this is the way it is, believe me. I said, no, this is the way I believe it is. Try it for yourself. So that's, I think, why it just hit such a chord and been translated into 40 languages, because that really speaks to people. It's like, yeah, we've been reading about this, hearing about this forever, but we need to see it with our own two eyes. We need to see it in action. So I think that's why this book is just, taken off and become so popular.
Exactly. And you mentioned that when you start doing these experiments, when you start observing, you give 48 hours deadline, and something that you can't possibly misunderstand or misinterpret, then what is the next step? Okay, you just realized, oh wow, this exists. This is true. Then how do you communicate with it, or how do you continue with that communication once you realize that this is truth?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to approach it. In fact, I kind of talk about the 4 steps, the stages of consciousness. And the first one is, you just feel like a victim and life just happens to you. And then the second step is when you start noticing that, wow, what I'm thinking, what I'm putting out there is actually affecting my world. And then the third step is where you really get it and you're actively using it all the time. And then the fourth step, and to me is where you just totally trust the benevolence of the universe. So you don't even have to manifest anything. You know that it's going to show up and give you gifts and blessings. And that is where you're just kind of in the state of bliss, constantly. And, I'm doing good to stay in 3 and would love to get to 4. But you know what I mean? But it's just these stages where you realize you're not just a victim. Then you realize that you do have some say, and then you realize, wow, I can use this all the time. And then eventually I think you get to where you just trust this force so much that it has your back, so you don't have to come up with a whole lot of stuff. Like I have 4 main intentions every morning, and then I figure the universe can take care of the rest. But my 4 intentions are peace of mind, surety of purpose, clear, unmistakable guidance, and unceasing joy. So those are my intentions. That's what I want from life. And then I let the universe, kind of lead me in the way. And I always think it's important to follow what makes you most come alive. And of course, I love to write. So that's how I share this message, because I love writing. I also get together I have a group of people that I get together. I call them my possibility posse. So we keep this conversation going. And that's another really important thing. Like when I'm in town, I get together these people, every week. I mean, this is how important I think this conversation is. So I really encourage people to, start these little possibility posses, texting gratitudes to each other. And There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but keep this conversation going. And when you start sharing these miracles and you start hearing about the stories and the possibilities that are happening to other people, you start realizing, wow, that could be possible for me. And that's why I'm committed to, sharing these stories on my blog. I do that a lot. So I want people to, because it opens your mind. It's like, wow, that just happened. Did that really happen? Well, if it happened to him, why couldn't it happen to me? So I think, it's like the 4-minute mile thing. Once one person ran the 4-minute mile, then, many people started running the 4-minute mile. So it's the same thing when you start realizing, wow, this force is interacting with me. This force is blessing me, or it did to him, so why can't it do it to me? So it's just a really good way to keep the conversation going about what is possible. And we don't even know. I mean, the possibilities are so much bigger than we can even conceive of. The more we let go of our rigid structures, but this is the way it is, the more, I think we're just starting on this miraculous journey of expansion and togetherness and oneness and all these things. And so our job is really to let go of all the structures, all the paradigms, all the beliefs that we've had that have kept us kind of stuck in the same thing. We're expanding, we're evolving all the time, but, I think some of us have put the brakes on it because we, look at the news or we look at, all these things, and we're not really open to, like I said, unlimited possibilities. So anyway, that's, to me, the new thing that's being born now is this idea that, there's so much more possible. And again, I want to be a part of that.
Exactly. And I will join you on being a part of that. So, and plus, I love the idea of starting the possibilities group. And really, if individuals, if your current friends and individuals that you hang out with 90% of the time are negative, maybe see if you can have the possibilities on, if I can be positive enough, maybe it'll rub off. And then find other people who are positive and start finding possibilities, start playing with it and really looking at it. Yeah, and being open to it. And I love the fact that on one of your posts on your website is somebody wrote into you and they specified, I decided to go to your website and read your stuff for the morning paper instead of the morning paper because you're so much more enlightening. Yeah. And when I was looking at that, I was like, oh my gosh, can you imagine if you started your morning with positive things rather than looking at the news and looking at doom and gloom? Can you imagine just on how that alone, individuals who are listening to this, who are opening up to the possibilities because they've gotten your book E Squared or E Cubed or Think and Grow Rich, and they're doing these experiments, that just starts off a whole domino effect of potentiality and possibilities. And that lights me on fire. That makes me excited.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so excited when I was blessed with you being able to be on this show so you can spread your word and really empower the women entrepreneurs and the creatives that are on listening to this. So thank you. I love that. And I know we're starting to almost wrap it up pretty soon, but I just had a couple of more questions that I wanted to just touch bases on. And then I would love for individuals to know how to get a hold of you, how to find your blog, how to find all of these inspirations that you're putting out there for individuals. So you have all of these different books. You have books on travel. You have books on how the universe works. You have Think and Grow Rich. Can you tell us, is there anyone that you have that's a favorite of yours?
Well, in some ways, I would suppose E Squared because it did completely change my life. But interestingly enough, that book came out 10 years earlier, and it had a different title, and then I resold it. It went out of print. I resold it and sold it to Hay House. And then, of course, it took off and had this, magical story. So that's a real favorite of mine. I really like all my books. I'm a travel writer, so I've done 3 books for National Geographic. I've done a book about breathing practice, about the importance. It's called Jumpstart Your Metabolism. It's about how, our metabolism works is very connected to our breathing. So that's another one that I've got. I've got one that's actually coming out next year about creativity and spirituality. So I kind of am across the board. I think one of my greatest gifts is that as a writer, I get to kind of follow my passion. So if there's something I'm interested in, I get to research it and find out about it. I mean, just like the travel writing, as you pointed out, I was just coming back from Barcelona. I was over there visiting my daughter, but while I was there, I did a story. I'm going to do 2 travel stories. One I've already done, and then I'm going to do another one. So I'm really fortunate in that I get to do just so many amazing things, and it all kind of stems from me following my first love, which is writing. And, it's led me on all kinds of amazing adventures and exciting paths. So anyway, I don't even remember what your question was, but anyway, I do have books on a lot of different topics. I mean, the 2 main topics would be travel. There's one, Girlfriend Getaway Guide. Back when that became a new thing, I did a book on, traveling with your girlfriends. And as I like to say, you can, fire your therapist and just go on a weekend with your girlfriends, because you guys will talk it all out. So, but anyway, so there's travel books, and then there's, kind of more the inspirational type books, which do with E Squared, E Cubed, Think and Grow Rich fall under. So those are my 2 great genres, I guess.
Well, and all of them are really phenomenal, because it really shows you not only teach the possibilities, the potentialities, you live it.
Right. Well, I certainly try to. You've got to smoke what you're selling, right?
Exactly. And well, unless you don't smoke, then you do.
Well,
But that is so incredible, and I love the way that you're able to write and really giving hope to individuals, because you mentioned your E Squared book. That came out 10 years ago, and then you repackaged and you resold it to Hay House, and boom. So sometimes people may not have been ready for what you wrote if you're a writer, but just be patient, because it'll come. And the right time will come where you'll just instinctively know once you start following these. Is that kind of a little bit on track for how things go for you?
Oh, I talk a lot about when you get on the joy and gratitude frequency, which what this book's about, then all the great things can happen. So one of the things I say, that first book, went out of print, but then I got happier and happier, and then, it comes back out and it takes off like a rocket. So, so that's one of the things I suggest is for people just, not get on the old sad sack like, oh, it didn't work out for me, but just trust that, you keep moving towards what makes you come alive, and the universe will take care of the rest. I mean, the universe wants to work in cahoots with our greatest desires, and it rewards us for following what we love to do. I mean, it really wants that. It wants each of us to be, all we're meant to be. So if we start moving in that direction, it will line up with us. It will, show up and reward us for doing its bidding, for doing what we love, following those signs that it keeps giving us.
Wow. And that is so true, Pam. So how can individuals get a hold of you, or they can find your books? How can people get in contact with you?
I don't really sell my books on my website, but that's a great place to find me. It's like, if you know my name, you can find me on Twitter, Pam Grout. My website's pamgrout.com. I have a Facebook fan page, Pam Grout. So it's pretty easy. All I got to do is remember my name, and you can find me. So I'm pretty easy to find. And my books are all over the place, so they're not too hard to find either.
Fabulous. So just in case you want to I'll spell that out. That's Pam, Pam, Grout, Grout. So look her up on Google, and you will find incredible information about Pam. And go to her website. Check out her inspirational posts. Get her books if you belong to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any of the other places that distribute them. Get one of her very good books and read it for yourself. Do your 9-day experiment or your 30-day experiment so that you can bring more happiness, more joy, and more fulfillment into your life. So thank you so kindly. Until next time, abundant blessings.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Wednesday Show with Luci McMonagle. That's on every Wednesday. Join us next time for more inspiration and empowerment from various topics and expert guests. To personally contact Luci McMonagle, visit LuciMcMonagle.com. That's LuciMcMonagle.com. Until next time, many blessings.